Chima's family was poor, and despite his best efforts, he often struggled to make ends meet. Yet, he was content because he had the love of his life, Adora. She was the kind of woman that every man in the village admired. She was not only beautiful, but also kind-hearted, always ready with a smile and a helping hand. She and Chima had grown up together, their bond strengthening over the years. They would often sit by the river that ran through the village, dreaming about their future together, planning for the family they would one day have. One day, Adora, Chima would say, as they sat under the shade of a mango tree, "I will build us a house right here in the village. We will have a farm, and I will work hard to ensure that you never have to worry about anything. I promise." Adora would smile and lean on his shoulder. "I believe you, Chima. As long as we are together, we will make it, don't worry." Their love was pure and strong, the kind that could withstand any storm. But the reality of their situation was a heavy burden. Chima worked tirelessly, doing odd jobs around the village, but his earnings were little. Adora supported him in every way she could, but there were times when the lack of money weighed heavily on both of them. One day, as the festive season approached, the village began to buzz with excitement. Every December, people who had moved to the city returned to the village to celebrate the holidays. With them, they brought stories of city life, wealth, and modernity. The village, usually quiet and peaceful, transformed into a lively hub of activity, with parties, gatherings, and celebrations taking place almost every day. Among the returnees were a group of wealthy girls who had grown up in the village but now lived in the city. They were dressed in the latest fashions, their hair and nails perfectly done, and they carried themselves with prestige and an air of superiority. Adora, who had always been content with her simple life, found herself drawn to them, curious about the glamorous lives they seemed to lead. One evening, as Chima and Adora sat by the river, the girls approached them. They recognized Adora from their childhood days and greeted her warmly, though there was an undertone of condescension in their voices. "Adora, it's been so long," one of them exclaimed. "You look so, rustic, but don't worry, we can help you. You should come with us to the city. You can't spend your life here in the village with nothing but dreams." Chima frowned at their words, feeling the sting of their insinuations. Adora, however, was intrigued. She listened as the girls spoke about their lives in the city, the parties, the luxury, the excitement. They told her about the opportunities that awaited her if she would only leave the village and her poor, struggling boyfriend behind. "You deserve better, Adora," one of them said. "A woman as beautiful and smart as you should be living the good life. You can't let this life hold you back." Adora was silent as they spoke, her mind swelling with their words. Chima noticed the change in her demeanor and felt a pang of fear. He had always known that their life was hard, but he had believed that their love would be enough to carry them through. "Let's go, Adora," he said, taking her hand. "We don't need to listen to them." But as they walked away, Adora's thoughts were no longer on the life as they had planned together. The seeds of doubt had been planted, and they began to grow slowly but surely. Over the next few weeks, Adora became very distant. She no longer looked forward to their time together by the river, and when she spent time with Chima, she seemed distracted, her thoughts somewhere else. Chima, who had always been sensitive to her moods, noticed the change and tried to reach out to her. "Adora, is something wrong?" he asked one evening as they walked through the village. "You seem so distant lately," he said. Adora hesitated, biting her lower lip. She wanted to tell him everything. How the girl's words had stayed with her. How she had begun to question their future together. How she longed for something more than the simple life they had always dreamed of. But she didn't want to hurt him. "It's nothing, Chima," she said finally, forcing a smile. "I'm just thinking about some things." But Chima could sense that there was more to it than that. He had noticed how she had started to change, how she was more critical of their life together, how she seemed less satisfied with what they had. It broke his heart, but he didn't know what to do to make things better. As the days passed, Adora began to spend more time with the city girls. She was drawn to their confidence, glamour, and their stories of city life. They took her to parties, introduced her to wealthy men, and slowly, she began to drift away from Chima. One evening, after returning from a party, Adora and Chima had a very big fight. It was the first serious argument they had ever had, and it shook them both. "Why can't you just be happy with what we have, Adora?" Chima asked, his voice filled with pain. "I may not have much, but I love you, and I'm doing everything possible to see that we get the life that we deserve." "But love is not enough, Chima," Adora shot back, her frustration bubbling in the surface. "You don't understand. There's a world out there, a world where people live better lives. I'm tired of struggling, of barely getting by. I want more." Her voice and her words cut deep, and Chima felt a wave of helplessness wash over him. He had always known that their life was hard, but he had believed that their love would be enough to carry them through. Now, he realized that it might not be so. The tension between them continued to grow, and soon, the inevitable happened. One evening, after another argument, Adora made her decision. "I can't do this anymore, Chima," she said. "I can't stay here and watch my life slip away. I need to leave." Chima stared at her, his heart breaking. "Are you saying you're leaving me?" "I'm saying I need to find myself," Adora said, tears welling up in her eyes. "I need to see what else is out there, to see if there's more to life than this." "But what about us? What about our dreams, Adora?" "I don't know, Chima," she said, shaking her head, tears flowing freely. "I just don't know." And with that, she left the village. She packed her bags and went back to stay with the city girls, leaving Chima behind. The village buzzed with gossip about their breakup, and Chima was devastated. He tried to focus on his work, but nothing seemed to matter anymore. He had lost the love of his life, and he didn't know how to move on. As the weeks passed and turned into months, Chima struggled to come to terms with Adora's departure. He had become a shadow of himself. His once bright spirits now dulled by the pain of loss. He would often sit by the river, where they had shared so many dreams, staring into the water and wondering where he had gone wrong. One day, while wandering through the village, Chima overheard some men talking about a powerful ritual that could bring wealth and success. They spoke in hushed tones, describing how the ritual required a great sacrifice but promised unimaginable riches. Desperate and consumed by anger and heartbreak, he approached the men and asked about the ritual. They warned him of the dangers, but Chima was beyond caring. He wanted to prove to Adora that he could be the man that she wanted, that he could give her the life she deserved. "I'll do it," Chima said with determination in his voice. "Tell me what I need to do." The men looked at him with pity, knowing that he was about to embark on a dangerous path. They told him that the ritual required a sacrifice of something precious, something that held deep meaning to him. It was a test of his resolve, a test to see if he was willing to give up the most cherished thing he had. Chima didn't hesitate. He knew exactly what he would sacrifice. Months passed, and Chima's life began to change. The ritual had worked, and he started to make money in ways he had never imagined. He became successful, gaining the respect of the villagers who had once pitied him. But despite his newfound wealth, there was an emptiness inside of him that no amount of money could fill. One day, as Chima was going about his business, he saw a very familiar face walking towards him. It was Adora. She looked different, her eyes filled with regret and longing. "Chima," she said softly, her voice trembling. I made a mistake. I was wrong to leave you. Can we start over?" Chima looked at her, his heart torn between the love he once had for her and the anger that still lingered. He knew what he had to do. "Of course, Adora," he said, smiling. "Let's start over." Adora was overjoyed, believing that they could pick up from where they left off. She moved back in with Chima, and for a while, it seemed as though everything was back to normal. But Chima's heart had grown cold, and he knew that their reunion was nothing more than a means to an end. One night, as they sat by the river as usual, Chima held Adora close, whispering sweet words in her ear. But his mind was elsewhere, focused on the ritual that had brought him his wealth. He knew that the time had come to complete the final step, to make the ultimate sacrifice. It was a quiet evening when Chima led Adora to a place where the ritual had been performed. She followed him, unaware of the darkness that had taken root in his heart. As they reached the spot, Chima turned to her, his eyes filled with a cold determination. "Adora," he said softly, "do you trust me?" She looked at him, her heart filled with love and hope. "Of course, Chima. I trust you with my life." Chima's grip tightened around her hand as he held her to the center of the clearing. He could feel his heart pounding in his chest, the weight of what he was about to do pressing down on him. But he knew that there was no turning back now. As the ritual began, Chima's mind was filled with the memories of their love, of the dreams they had shared. But those memories were now tainted by the betrayal he had felt, by the pain of losing her. He knew that this was the only way to reclaim his power, to prove to himself that he was no longer the weak, poor man she had once left behind. Adora sensed that something was wrong, her instinct screaming at her to run, but she couldn't bring herself to leave Chima's side. She had made her choice, and now she should be able to live with the consequences. The final moments of the ritual were swift and brutal. Chima completed the sacrifice. The cold steel of his knife glinted in the moonlight as he took the life of the woman he had once loved. Adora's lifeless body crumpled to the floor, her blood staining the earth underneath her. Chima stood over her, his heart a cold, hollow shell. He had done what he needed to do, but as he looked down at her body, he realized that the price of his wealth may have been far too high. The villagers found Adora's body the next day, but Chima was nowhere to be found. Some said he had gone mad and fled the village, while others whispered that he had become a powerful but cursed man, doomed to wander the earth alone for the rest of his days. And so the tale of Chima and Adora became a cautionary story, passed down from generations, a reminder of the dangers of greed and the darkness that can consume a man's heart when he loses sight of what truly matters.